Welcome back, everyone, to our next episode of the Ramos Law Difference Makers podcast. I'm Dr. Jim Hoven, your host, and today I have another chance to visit with an exceptional duo who is making a difference in the lives of people, especially entrepreneurs, not only in Colorado, but throughout the country. I have with me today not only our personal folks that help us with our digital marketing, but also my good friends. I have the CEO, founder, COO tandem combo of this amazing group, Bloom Media. And my guests today are Bailey Sutton and Steve Shoemaker. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us, man.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's been a minute. This is round two. Actually, back in the pandemic days, we were trying to figure all this stuff out, and we were kind of new into our episodes, and you guys were kind enough to come down, and we tried to set up all the equipment, and the sound check, just something went wrong.
Yeah.
But we've learned a lot since then.
Yeah, you guys were downstairs in this building in the basement. It was before everything was renovated.
Yeah,
and
we were
like,
let's
try this.
Let's time the room.
Yeah, you have a couple mics. Let's bring them out of storage.
Yep. Tried to facilitate everything, and the interview went great. Just there was no good sound, and in the meantime,
it was a bummer missing that one.
You guys have really been developing, and I know we've been think tanking a lot and growing things and moving in a direction. I'm sure with all your other clients, things have been growing. So I'm excited for the show today. So I think let's start out by talking about, here's what's cool about you guys. You're young entrepreneurs. I remember when I was your age, I was graduating from chiropractic school. So I got out at 24 and then I started my business. But when you get out as a chiropractor, or I guess almost any other medical professional, you're starting your practice.
Right.
You see it more starting your practice than your business, where I got to get new patients and they're clients, but you want to get your hands on those bods to get them feeling better. And that's what you want to do.
Right.
Give us the listening audience, the founder story, if you will, because both of you met in college and you're going the traditional college route. And then all of a sudden you guys start realizing something's different or amiss in what you're looking for compared to what you're receiving. And so give the audience a sense of this young founder story on what Bloom's all about.
Sure. Yeah. So, we met in college about 5-6 years ago, something like that. We were friends and we kind of hung out, but we were never like really close, and we've gradually got closer, over the time. But, we were both in business class we're studying business, right? And you had a marketing minor. But my dad owned a dental laboratory in Las Vegas. And, I was a college kid. I was out here on my own. I'm from Las Vegas. So my junior year of school, I came to my dad. I'm like, hey man, like I know social media. You're not doing anything digitally. You don't have a website. Like, let's see what we can do here to see if that works for bringing in new clients for you. And his clients were the dentists. So he let me do that. I was working for free. And then I'm like, okay, I do need some money here.
But you're my son.
Yeah. So he's like, well, why don't you package this up and, pitch this to other labs and, potentially other businesses? And I'm like, that's a great idea. And, he has an entrepreneur mindset as well. So it was kind of clear to him.
Because you had helped him gain some clients,
yes,
right?
Exactly.
So obviously it had to have worked.
It was working. And I focused on, we can touch on this later, but I focused on just the content. There was also, content and education in his industry. So I'm like, okay, no one really knows what goes on behind the scenes of the dental world. Everybody thinks you go to the dentist, you get a new tooth in if you need a veneer or anything like that. But they don't realize you actually send that out to a lab and they send it back. So I was posting just high quality content of my dad's like handcrafted work.
Was it video pictures,
like tutorials, like what does this mean? What are these words, like language, just education all around. And
great photos, by the way.
Yeah,
some of those photos, I look back at them, they're fantastic, and just it was a handicraft. It's really a craft. It's creating these teeth. It's incredible to see.
And that's what I realized. That's the angle I took because, like I said, not a lot of people know about like the lab world, and dental labs exist. So I'm like, okay, let's try to make this an art, because it is. And so I was just showcasing that, just following a bunch of dentists on Instagram because dentists are active on Instagram, and he started getting clients in. They started getting calls, and I'm like, this was not even with a website or anything. This is just Instagram. So I'm like, okay, there's something here. So anyways, he gave me that idea and I kind of ran with it. I started just doing cold emails and cold calls. I filed an LLC, and it started working. So we got social media clients, and then, okay, how do I do this with other businesses now? How do I tailor this? So I brought this guy along. He, you kind of, it perked your interest, right? I mean, what I was doing, you kind of wanted to do your own thing, and then I brought you aboard, and then kind of put that idea to the side.
So let me ask you this: while we're talking about the origin story, what kind of feedback did you get from specifically your parents when you decide, is finishing college the best thing, or do I start a business? Like, I got to hear that, because some people, they get a little pushback. Others are like, well done.
Yeah. So in my situation, of course we started in school, and while I was in school, I was just started alone. He wasn't in the picture yet. And it started to take off. I started to create these high ticket packages, and like my form of outreach was working, and I'm like, I'm making some money here, and I can just do this. This is what I want to do, and I could build this. And do I need my degree? I don't really think so. So I decided to drop out. And
meanwhile, he's working in class.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, he's stepping out of class, going to the bathroom to take business calls.
Love it.
Yeah, in my business class. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I gotta choose here. Like, this is taking up a lot of my time, and I'm not doing myself. I was a terrible student,
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, let's just do this full time and like double down on it. Like I'm gonna bet on myself here. So, and it worked, it paid off. And so I told my dad that. He was like, I understand, he did the same thing when he was young. But for you, it might've been a little different, with what your parents were saying.
Yeah. Both my parents my dad's a professor and my mom is a teacher as well. So education's always been like a high standard of, everything,
it's the foundation.
Finish what you started, that kind of thing. So I did want to drop out pretty bad. I was feeling that, but I ended up sticking it through, and I graduated, and then so I'm kind of the credentials behind it. I have that kind of thing. Like
totally.
Bailey's got definitely the entrepreneurial drive, and the classic CEO story of dropping out of college when you find that idea, and so I think it would make a good tandem in that.
That's a really good tandem. Yeah. I'm interested in, I've always been involved in partnerships. That's been something that's been important to me. I've realized long ago, even when we had 5 chiropractic clinics, I didn't want to do that by myself as the guy and then have a bunch of people under me. I wanted to have partners, and partnerships can be super risky. They can be really rewarding, but man, can they be like nasty divorces if you don't have everything lined up. Did you guys have to talk about that and go through that? Because again, you're young guys, and sometimes you think, man, let's go have a beer and be a partner, right? It kind of goes that way.
Yeah.
Did you have to go through the process to see if you made good partners as well as great friends?
Yeah. I think we did a little bit.
So I had started a company earlier in college as well with a couple buddies. It was actually 5 of us as partners, which, when you're in college, it's like, yeah, let's go grab beer. Let's start a company, right? So we started this company called Lifebox, and it was a subscription modeled service for college students to get all their weekly, monthly essentials, toothpaste, toothbrushes, deodorants, toilet paper.
It was a really cool idea. I remember when they were doing
it.
It was
great.
It was really fun. And our school was working alongside of us and really encouraging us in doing it. But there was 5 of us. So logistically, it was very, very difficult to get everybody together in a meeting. This was before Zoom, all that kind of stuff. Zoom would make that a lot easier, but still, it's like, how do we get 5 people all with different schedules, all taking classes, have other work together regularly? So it ends up being, a couple people are pulling the weight for everybody else, and then it becomes obvious who's not really pulling weight, and it became a mess very, very quickly. So long story short, I had this, really, really bad picture of what partnerships look like walking into, that's why in the beginning I was hesitant to go back into a business with a partner. I always envisioned just, starting something on my own and doing it. But, the more, I kind of jumped on board just doing some sales and some stuff with Bloom. And the more I kind of worked with it and kind of got used to the idea of a partnership, it made more and more sense, especially with one other person. And Bailey's really, really easy to work with. We've really gotten along great, and we complement each other in our strengths and weaknesses. So it's a great fit. And you know what? I wouldn't want to do it without a partner, to be honest. It's like you're saying, it's a much better experience.
It is.
Much better experience.
Especially if you can outline for people listening, again, I've been in some partnerships that went really well, and I've been in some partnerships that didn't go so well. And oftentimes when I look back on it, it is the role that I took that caused the partnership to either go good or to not go so well, right? Like sometimes I knew I shouldn't have been in partnership, but I did it anyway,
right?
Or I didn't listen to the people closest to me. And other times in partnerships, I'm like, everything's great because we can communicate, we can conflict resolve, we can go through battles together, and we can win together.
Yeah.
And when we found that recipe, it was good. So I'm really proud of you guys for having taken that step and knowing that it's right for you, because there are some guys that if they have a partner, it's just going to end up in disaster. So anyway, I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
As you guys started the company, was it around 2018?
2018, yeah.
Yeah, 2018.
The first iteration of Bloom was born in 2018.
Yep. And I remember we were right at the first Ramos Law. We were part of the first the first group.
You guys have been some of our biggest supporters through the years.
Late 2018, early 2019, we started talks.
Yep. And so then we worked together for 2019, and here we are in 2021, going into Q4 of 2021. What has been the biggest lesson that you guys have learned on two fronts? One, as a business, what's the biggest business lesson you've learned? And two, what's the biggest thing that you've learned in your craft as far as how to do what you do to make businesses like ours successful?
So I can kind of speak to the first question if you want to tackle the next one. But I realize, like, this is a aha moment for me. You can say whatever your services are on the front end, like, this is what we offer, this is what we do. But okay, let's say you get a client. Then I realized, okay, now what? I need to make sure, I learned that I need to make sure that the back end of everything is super tight, more so than the front end, because I need to make sure that the client experience is smooth during the onboarding process. So then I started to learn about onboarding processes, and I'm like, okay, this is really important. So I kind of learned to tighten the screws on the back end to make sure, like, I guess you could call it customer service, client relations, and making sure, like, all their needs are met. So because, like, if you say, okay, we signed with this company and they're doing our social media and some digital marketing and let's see what they can do, and they seem good, but when we're signing up and we're talking and everything seems kind of unorganized, and I'm like, okay, I need to get all that stuff in order so I can create a really good experience. You know what I mean? So that was kind of a big thing that I realized. I'm taking on, like, my first couple clients.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's important. Definitely. What about you, Steve?
As far as honing in the craft, in business school, especially marketing, during all my marketing classes, I didn't learn digital advertising. They did not teach digital. No,
nothing.
No.
Do
I
they
didn't learn how to
acknowledge
set up
it in college to say this is a big deal and this is the direction, or because
My business school
this is
did
your
not.
time. It's not like you were 10 years ago.
Yeah,
No,
I would
yeah.
say it's more like generalized in marketing classes.
Yes.
It's just like, this is what marketing is a 1,000-foot view.
Yeah.
Principles.
Yeah, and then, like, if you want to do digital marketing, here's a little club, or something like that.
Yeah,
It's
so
like smaller.
Like you said, 1,000-foot view over, what is a campaign? How do you run a campaign? What are the different, the key ideas that you need for marketing, of course. And they do apply across the board, whether you're in terrestrial or digital. But as far as, like, they never taught me how to set up a Facebook campaign. They never taught me how to set up Google Analytics. I didn't know how to put a snippet of code in for, tracking ads on websites. I didn't know any of that stuff going into it.
Right.
And especially dropping into, like, a COO role where I have a lot of responsibilities in a ton of different areas, and how to manage all those different areas. And so that was something that I really I jumped into the fire when it came to that. And, like, a lot of people, when they graduate college with a marketing degree, they'll jump into a major firm and they'll have a very siloed activity.
Right.
I manage SEO. I manage paid ads. I manage content creation, right? It's one of those, generally the fall, or influencer marketing. They'll just fall into a silo. Really what we're doing is a total picture, total digital platform. Like, so when businesses come to us, we have to find the right suitable program for them to fit them in, and where their business makes sense in the digital landscape. So, I had to, really become proficient and an expert in as many different areas as I possibly could very quickly. That was the whole goal. And it's something that, most college graduates don't need to do. So we had to, both of us, really dive in and understand as wide as possible.
How did you guys do that? What's the process of getting as much uptake on information as possible in that stuff? Now, again, I think you both were a little more native to it than someone like myself. And we have had many meetings together where I'll throw out an idea because I have some creative thoughts, but I have no idea on how to execute it, monitor it in the digital world.
Yeah.
So you're coming from a space where one of you guys get your degree, one of you guys is hustling up business and making things happen. And now you got to be able to deliver on that product for people like us to keep the contracts. So how do you go about it? Do you just spend time? Do you Google it? Like, what do you do to become great at all those things?
You spend a lot of time. You do Google it. You do go on YouTube. But for me, at least, my biggest thing was just making calls to people that I know in my network. I mean, I know some people who are, Facebook ad wizards and like YouTube content creators. And I'm like, hey, like, can I pick your brain about this? I have this client, blah, blah, blah. And like, I need to know like how to approach this. So it was a lot of our network kind of helping us out. And then like also just learning on our own and trial and error, so it all kind of came together,
Yes. And now I think you guys find yourself, a couple, 3 years into this thing. What did you learn during COVID as a business, both for your business and then for the people that you worked with? Because I know for us, during the COVID times, because our firm predominantly relies on, as the clients we see are those that have been involved in car accidents, there was very few people driving because everybody was in the house.
Right.
And so our decision as a business was we pulled all of our TV advertising, right? We just didn't want to do that at that point, and we wanted to go more through like what we're talking about, branding, so that when people came back outside, that we wouldn't be forgotten, but we saved all the money. So what did you guys learn for your business? How did you innovate? Did you do anything different in COVID or opportunities or challenges there? And then what did you notice from your partner clients?
Yeah. So in our, like with our business and with our services and the clients that we have, we've noticed over the past 3 years that day to day, we don't really know what's going to happen. We don't really know what the day is going to bring as far as like something that comes up. Oh, there's glitches all over Facebook, Instagram's down. Oh, this client needs this, so it's like, it's always like kind of juggling a lot. And that's what we like. It's fun. So when COVID came around, it's like, okay, we're kind of used to this unexpected, like something to happen like this. So it's like, okay, let's just keep doing business as usual. Yeah, this is happening, and we have these clients. Let's try to keep these clients. That was like our main thing. We didn't really go out and do a lot of lead generation and get, sales. It was like, okay, let's keep our core clients. Let's help them with what they need because they're going through this tough time too. And, we kind of all band together. But yeah, so I mean, it was a lot of that and like just keep going. We didn't really like, wow, what's going to happen kind of thing. We were just looking forward, It
was just, nose to the grindstone, honestly. It was a tough time. No doubt. I think a lot of people were hurting during that time, obviously. And, we prided ourselves on social media and social media alone prior to COVID happening. And because of that, I mean, the key word was pivot, right? Everybody was pivoting, and we did the same. We started educating ourselves on website design, on SEO, on just a broad gambit of outside digital advertising, features that we wanted to, broaden our scope. We rebuilt our websites. We redid all of our services. We tweaked all of our packages. It gave us time to really be introspective and see, what can we do differently? How can we improve what we're offering? All of those different things. So it was definitely a tough time, but it was a growing time. And what we found is that a lot of our competition died.
No kidding.
A lot of competition. It was a fad for a while. It was, start a marketing agency, a marketing agency. Everybody and their mom was doing it, right? Yeah. What we found is that COVID killed off a lot of them, which us coming out on the other side feels really good. It feels like, we've really accomplished something and we've made it through that, Lord willing. And not make it through, but not, there won't happen again. Right. I'm hoping that,
Yeah.
So we really made it through, and I'm proud of that. Yeah. Really proud of that.
And what would you say was the average behavior that you noticed, commonalities or maybe not commonalities within your clients? So again, for us, there were people in our space that really doubled down on TV because the ads got so cheap.
Right.
And so everyone really there was a handful of guys, not many, that said, we're going to really drive market awareness, brand awareness through television. We took the opposite stance. So that was our behavior. That was our activity. And we said, we want to make our message go out there with what you guys were doing, right? That kind of thing. Was there any consistencies that you saw among your clients or things or did their behavior swing wildly as well on how they used your services during this time?
Yeah. I mean, it was I guess it kind of depends on the client, but a lot of the clients were just, okay, let's just keep going. Like they even got even more busy because they need to adjust with the new COVID rules, especially if they have foot traffic, if they're, dealing with customers. And then, there's other clients that are like, okay, tell us what to do. Like, we need to do something now. Like we have a cannabis client that, they were really affected because, they were deemed as not essential. And then, okay, a day later, they are essential now. So I'm like, okay, what's the messaging on social? It was like a lot of juggling around. So it was like, some clients were going crazy. Some clients, they just were dark and they were just focusing on what they needed to do, you know?
Yep. So like the world, kind of everyone handled it in their own way.
Yeah, there was a lot of confusion. I don't know if you remember those first few months of COVID. Social media was a crap show. Like, it was unbelievable what was going on there. Like, everybody was throwing out crazy information. Everyone's like, oh, we're going to be closed down forever. Or we have, 15 days to slow the spread. So everyone was expecting 15 days and then everything would go back to normal. Like, that was everyone's mentality through it. So everyone's, a lot of clients are like, okay, do we really need to make big changes? Because the messaging was just all over the place. So it was really key, like Bailey was saying, for us to be very straightforward with, our clients' customers. What is our procedure? What are we going to do about this? So that was really, really key. And some clients pulled back a little bit. They wanted to just kind of stay low on the radar and see what happens and kind of let it pass over.
And we
Others
even
wanted to be
recommended
more
that
active.
to some clients.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much saturation on social media right now about the pandemic and, political stuff. So it's like, okay, even if we try to do anything, we do something great on social media, but it's not going to resonate. It's not going to reach people right now.
I remember having that conversation because we had the double whammy of the pandemic. And then, of course, all the social injustice thing that they layered right on top of each other. And you had a lot of people that were upset and pent up for a variety of reasons and everything coming together at once. And I remember us having this conversation like, listen, having your voice heard, unless you're jumping in to really dive into one of these things on either front, no one's paying attention. That's all they're looking at. And that was a fascinating conversation that we had.
Yeah. And that's remind me of, that was George Floyd, what happened over the summer. And that was the whole time when that was what was dominating the entire airwaves. The entire airwaves were social justice, COVID, that was it. And, we noticed organic reach plummet during that time, just absolutely plummet. So it was, that conversation of, are we going to jump in full force? We're going to let this ride, like how we're going to approach this. And remember that was.
But you guys had the unique, kind of thing where you have a doctor who is also a lawyer. Yes. So it's like, okay, what's happening right now is a pandemic of COVID. So, can Dr. Ramos shed any light medically on COVID and what's going on? So we tried that. And I don't know if you remember.
We got a lot of.
We hit some virality there a little bit.
Yes, we did.
And so we
millions of impressions on that.
Yeah. Yes. Instead of promoting, personal injury attorney, like, no, let's provide some education around this because he is a doctor. This isn't some kind of conspiracy thing. He's a doctor. So we kind of did that with you. And then, with the other clients who had customers, it's like, okay, hey, we're still here. Yes. Here's the new rules on how to enter. So it was different focuses, content-wise.
That business time was so interesting. And obviously we're still living in the hangover, the residual of all of that.
That's a good way to put that, the hangover of
kind of thinking through that. What has changed in your minds with respect to the platform? So if someone's listening to this today and they don't have a media group, but they either want to build their personal brand or their business brand, they don't have a Bloom to help them at this point anyway. Would you have a message about the various types of platforms? Because one thing that, we've learned together and we've gone to some pretty high profile programs together is that when I'm looking at something on TikTok and I'm then switch over to LinkedIn, even though it's still me, I'm wanting things presented in a different way, or I'm looking at something. Is there anything that you guys are seeing since you're working in the industry every day as far as these different content consumption from the channels? Who's where? What are they doing? What are they looking for?
It's a good question. It's constantly changing as far as platforms go. I think I can speak to the platform thing. One thing that's really become clear is that there are going to be new platforms. Platforms are going to be popping up all the time. There's actually a whole slew of decentralized platforms popping up right now that are away from centralized.
What's a decentralized platform?
Yeah, so they don't have a board of directors, they don't have a stock ticker, they don't have any of that stuff. There's these things called Mastodon servers that are now popping up where you as an individual can host your own social media platform. And it's a flat fee, very low, and you can build your own community inside of these Mastodon servers. So it's similar to a Twitter or something, something like that. So I think we're seeing a lot of the decentralization of social media and of platforms where people can come together. We saw like the Clubhouse phenomenon,
yes.
right? Like,
yeah, that's right.
We see these different platforms keep popping up that serve different groups or serve different types of media. So I think that's a trend that we're going to continue to see. And having someone like us to come alongside your business and say, hey, this is your target audience. You may have more. You can break down politically. It's really, right now the platforms are breaking up politically is what we're finding.
Okay.
But that's just, I think the way they first initially split, but I think it's going to continue to split based on, what the target audience
That's
looks
what
like.
Clubhouse did, right? At first, all the genres of what you would want to have a Clubhouse meeting about were all under that thing. And then like a sports one broke off from Clubhouse
Like
to
a
call
little
its
mini
own
podcast
sports
in this
thing.
like
Locker room.
locker
room. Okay.
Yeah. So I anticipate seeing that continue. And more, and there's two different ways of looking at it, whether it's good or bad. I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, you get echo chambers, probably more likely echo chambers inside of those, which, is a downfall of social media for sure. But, it's still, as a marketer, we have to look at it as where's our target audience? How do we reach them? Which platform is appropriate for this business based on your location, what your target audience, your demographic looks like. So that's something that we continue to look at. And I'm really, really interested in this because it's more of a social phenomenon more than anything else that I'm seeing is,
right.
It's like it's large scale sociological kind of phenomenon that's happening. And you throw technology into it and, constantly evolving technology. And we had the episode about blockchain.
Yes.
And, that's all getting involved in it. So there's a lot of different ways that this is splintering. Question is, how do we reach them on the new platform, new audiences? So that's, I don't know if that answers your question, but
it does.
That's kind of the direction my mind's
So now
going.
let me segue that a little bit. And Bailey, maybe you have a thought about this. Let's say someone owns a business or starting their own company and they're like, I don't know, I don't think I'm ready to hire an agency yet. Either I can't afford it or they don't know what that means. But in their mind, they say I can't afford it. What would someone need to do in order to effectively bring business into their business on social media?
Okay, so if you're trying to start something on your own, let's say you're just trying to start whatever, like for example, my fiance is starting her coaching like business and coaching programs and curriculum and all that, and she's trying to gain clients and she wants to know how to approach social media. Well, what I do first is I look at the competition. What are they doing? What are they doing that works? What's resonating content-wise with their audience?
And do you know that it works? Is works defined by numbers of likes or engagement, or how do you
kind of
define
all
the
that
KPIs
together?
there?
Yeah, like engagement, comments, likes, views. It's kind of all that meshed together. And so we look at those numbers and we okay, so this is kind of resonating with people. So it's like, how do you think about what are your services? And, like we always talk about in our meetings, don't sell on social media, provide value, try to, we always say be social on social media. So I would look at, the competition or people in similar industries, what are they doing, and try to just emulate them a little bit, so just try things out, see what works, see what doesn't. And, always social media is not the only form, organic social media is not the only form of bringing in business, but, so you got to be doing cold calls, all that kind of stuff. But there is a way to generate leads organically on social media, and it's through bringing value. So what are your pain points in your services? What do people want to know about? Like for you, or for Ramos Law, personal injury, what do you do after a car accident? A lot of people don't know that stuff.
Right.
So, and guess what? You're providing that value, but your brand's on it, but you're not selling, So that's kind of what I would do is just, okay, where are your value points? And that's kind of what we do when we bring on a client and we say, okay, we want to learn about everything that is to know about your business. So we can kind of go back to the drawing board and figure out what to do content-wise. So, it's just start with the value, bring the value, bring the education, and also bring the entertainment.
Right. If you can entertain, that makes sense.
Yeah, people want to see that you're real. So if you're just constantly posting graphics and just pictures, that's not really, that might not work. You want to get in front of the camera a little bit. So
have fun with it. That's
fun
my
with
biggest thing.
It's not so, it doesn't have to be so serious, like just, you're on there for business reasons, whether your followers know it or not, but just have fun with it. So, does that answer your question?
It
a
does.
little bit?
And so that's the organic side. What about the paid side?
Yeah.
Because I know I was having a conversation with someone about this morning, talking about, I had listened to a podcast this morning. I think I shared it with you.
Yeah,
guys.
that's right, Gary.
So as I'm listening to that, one big thing came to play, which was, and we've talked about this a lot, but you can have a great spot. Let's say you have a great Super Bowl spot and you're willing to pay $3 million or $5 million or $6 million for that 30 seconds. If the spot's bad, just because you have all the attention doesn't mean you're going to get the result compared to if the spot is great. So, we're doing all this organic stuff and just getting our name out, but there's got to be something to creating an effective ad, a paid ad. So now this same person, let's say they do know how to run a paid ad, which is something that's why we have you guys, right? I don't know how to put an ad on Facebook or anywhere else. But on the creative side, if someone wants to look at making an ad, is there something that you guys would have for a tip for them to go, these are the kind of things on a paid ad that you would look to do?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you want to catch attention. If you think about it, your phone's in social media, it's like a scrolling billboard, right? There's a million different things that people are always posting. Some things, like, people are seeing crazy stuff on social media constantly. It's all serotonin just blasts to the brain constantly. So if it's dry, if what you're offering is dry, it's just not entertaining, not interesting, you're not going to get any feedback on it. It's just not going to happen. So it starts with the creative, making sure that it's serotonin boosting. You have to hit them with a boost of serotonin. You have
love that. For people that don't know, that might be listening, serotonin is one of the brain and body's feel-good chemicals that when you stimulate certain things within the brain, serotonin kicks out, which makes you feel really good and you want more. And that's when people get the serotonin hit, it makes them drive deeper into ads, deeper into the deals. And a lot of the social networks, they have that figured out. And so that's why they'll do things like what we were talking about in that movie. I think it's called The Social Dilemma or something, where they understand how to hit the dopamine and serotonin switches.
Pull on our heartstrings a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that aspect of marketing has not gone away.
Correct.
So when it comes to paid ads on Facebook or wherever your platform is, I think it starts with storytelling. You need to have a good story here. What's the background of your business? Like, when we just came out and you asked us, what's the origin story here? Like, that's what people want to buy into. If you scroll on Facebook and you're just looking at videos of, let's say you look at a video of a dog, how this couple found the dog like in a gutter, and here's the story how they brought it back to life. And you're sitting there watching this video and you don't even realize that you're hypnotized.
Super connected.
So it's
the verge of tears.
So when it comes to paid ads, it's not like, call me now, I provide this service. It's not like that. It's like, okay, like let's you guys did it. We did an ad for Ramos Law. Like, Joe Ramos sat down and he kind of told his story, and like people love that. They want to connect.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
One surprising hit that we got on the boating ads that we recently did, the boating injury accident ads, was the one that it's an overview, kind of like a drone shot down on water, and there's jet skis going around in circles,
a circle,
right? And I put like some really, really kind of like beachy music behind it, some like kind of upbeat, like woo kind of stuff behind it. That performed so well. Everybody, the comments were blowing up underneath it. It was just like, it really hit home because it was something different, had a nice spice of audio behind it. Do not underestimate audio. That's so key. Our eyes are so saturated, back to the serotonin, that if you can initiate ears as well, another sensory another sense on top of that, super, super powerful. So that ad that we ran had a mix of both of those, nice bright colors. We had, words popping up over top of it. The comments were all, I'm waiting for them to crash. They're like waiting for something to happen, waiting for something crazy, but it kept them on the edge, and kept them interacting and, watching through the whole ad. And then, phone number comes up and that happens. So auditory, visually stimulating, you have to stimulate as many senses as you possibly can. So that's a huge key. And then the last part, I think, is, there's obviously more to it, but target audience is really obviously super key.
Understanding who is you're wanting to see that ad.
Yeah, not just who is, but who is not. So target audiences, so a lot of people know that, okay, on Facebook, I want to target people who have recently been in a car accident, are commuters at work, or, are in this, have over a 30-minute commute, whatever it is. Those are simple things. But also think about the people that you don't want to. So it's about narrowing that Venn. So you have the people, or I guess it's not a Venn diagram, but it's about narrowing it. So you have, your target audience, and then, you take away the people that aren't, involved in that. So, maybe they only commute 10 minutes, and it's just not the likelihood of them getting an accident's less, or, maybe they don't own a car.
Or they live in a town of 30 people or something.
Or they take public transportation, or
they work at home or whatever.
Yeah, work at home, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, so narrowing that audience is also very, very key. And something that usually gets overlooked is how to narrow it down, because we can blast out a shotgun of ads to people, but if you're not narrowing it, then
makes sense.
Not as effective. Yeah.
What about bad feedback? Because there was a thing for a long time. There was a slogan out there, not even a slogan. There was a pervading thought that said there's no such thing as bad publicity, that you get your name out there, good, bad, or indifferent, you get your name out there and it's good. How do you guys feel about that? So, because you can take a stance and you can make a post and you can do all these things. Some comments are good, some comments are bad. And so how does that affect ratings, rankings, responses? Should you respond to everything that comes back negative? What's the thought about that? Because social, we hear so much about in the personal world, kids getting messed up because they're getting cyber bullied, like causing everything up to suicides, because of comments. Not even someone you and I face to face right now, just on this silly thing.
Yeah.
Do businesses get cyber bullied? Should they stay away from that? Should they respond? Do they say, hey, bring it on, because now my name's in the news? What's your thought about that?
I would say that as far as that thought of all publicity is good publicity, I think that is true in some instances, but as far as Facebook ads go, and I use Facebook ads specifically, it's not the case. For a law firm, we always use the example of a law firm because we love you guys, and like on our own podcast when we're talking about marketing, we always use the example of law firm. But anyways, your biggest fear or biggest hurdle to get over is coming across as an ambulance chaser, right?
Yep.
Or one of your biggest
for sure
hurdles. But that's the biggest thing that we face in when it comes to paid ads is people go in the comments. They do not like personal injury ads because they see a lot of them on TV. And they don't want it on their Facebook page. So they just roast any kind of law firm in the comments.
And it doesn't matter who it is.
And it doesn't matter who it is.
They just
So
it's the industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so in that instance, I would say that that's bad publicity and it's not good. So because you could your whole brand and your whole reputation could just be tarnished like through this whole thread of a Facebook ad. So what I do on Facebook ads, like anytime I'm scrolling, because I'm always kind of analyzing, I don't click on their landing page. I go to the comments section because the people who are commenting on that, they know this company already for the most part.
For sure.
And they just are like, they're just roasting them, man. So yeah, it's a pretty rough world in the comments.
Yeah. So in that sense though, would you then say, okay, well, because we're a PI firm, we're not going to advertise on Facebook because we don't want those comments? Or do you have to change the ads? Or is this what we talked about earlier of selecting certain people out in some way so that you get fewer of those comments? Like, how do you solve that?
I think it has to do with your ad creative. And again, this goes back to storytelling. Create a really good story that people can resonate with to avoid that ambulance chase kind of mentality.
Yes.
You don't want to put a picture of a car accident on your ad. That's just not going to work. You're going to get roasted. So create that really nice storytelling, pull on the heartstrings a little bit, and be genuine. As far as the creative goes.
And we have a boosted post right now running. It's a meme, and it's a squirrel, right? Going, no, sorry, it's the Batman and Robin slapping meme. Right. Anyway, it's a great meme, and it's like you should have picked the doctor, lawyer, or whatever it is. So we got a comment underneath that says, awesome ad, right? Like that's the only comment. So it's like people want to see different. They want to see exciting. They want to see new. If it's dry and it's just a picture of a car accident and call this number, it's just people have seen that way too much. It's oversaturated. Yeah, people get annoyed at that and they just go off because they're tired of seeing it. And like, we should listen to that. It's calling for innovation. And that's a good thing. Innovation in the space is a great thing in marketing. It needs it. We need innovation in this space. We need to get creative in how we're reaching people and reaching people in a way that's not going to make them angry. That's a good thing to do, is reach people in a way that's not angering them.
Yeah. But, as far as replying to all those comments, a lot of those comments aren't worth replying to. Yes, we do respond to all comments like organically that come in through posts that we make. But as far as ads go, it's just a lot of them are just people who want to cause some ruckus,
Yeah.
Like it's just not worth it.
Right.
So we either, I guess we can try to reply, or maybe we hide the comment, but because it just doesn't help anything, and you're not commenting on this specific business on your experience with that business. You're just trying to be rude,
Yeah.
To harken back to what you said, there's the phenomenon of the keyboard warrior, right? Where they're not face to face.
Yeah.
And if they were face to face with whoever, is on the other side, they would never say that.
Yeah.
Right.
Never. Right. But because there's the veil of a computer screen or veil of a phone in between, they light them up. Right.
It's just like road rage.
Yeah.
You're in your car, you're screaming at that other person, but if your windows were down, you had two convertibles.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think the public's ability to perceive that kind of mentality is? Do you think it's high, their IQ, or do you think it's low, where if they're looking at that, they're like, man, this is bad taste, it's sour grapes? Or do you think they're like, ooh, maybe this person knows something about this business? Can you
generally
gauge
people will, if they have a personal experience with something, they will share it.
Yeah.
And I think people have been around social media enough to know they can sniff BS pretty easily. That's something social media has done, is increase everyone's BS meter, and what's true and what's not. Like if someone's not sharing a direct story, then I think people are pretty aware of that.
And what about the bad
comments?
What do you think about that side?
Yeah,
Because obviously, if as the brand, you're making stuff up and you're not authentic, then I could see them sniffing that out too.
Yeah.
But if I leave a bad comment, you think the same?
Yeah, I think the same thing. Generally, we see this with reviews. This is why reviews are so huge. It's because it's people's personal stories around your brand, and I would be way more worried about a bad review on a personal story on your page rather than a bad comment that's just vague and kind of all over the place. Like, you got to realize everyone's on social media.
Yes.
There's 3 billion people on Facebook. Like, you're going to have what's a 0.05% of might be crazy. That's a lot of people with 3 billion people.
Yes.
So I think people understand that. Yeah, there's also bots out there too.
Yeah,
there's
a
a
lot.
large range of things out there that are meant to stir up people and
So explain that. So you're saying that bots can be, someone would tell a bot that I want to go target my competition or something to give them bad comments, or how does that work?
We saw this, the whole thing with, the election, the Russian interference and stuff. There was parts of that are actually very valid. There are campaigns meant to divide people. That's well known, and it's recorded, and there's been a lot of studies on it. So and these bots, they don't really care. They don't have discretion on where they're posting or what they're doing. They just go out and they have an AI behind them that kind of slightly alters things, so it's harder to pick up. But that does happen. Less about competition generally, unless if you're Nike and Adidas, you might be seeing that. Your Coke and Pepsi, you might be seeing that. That's
maybe.
That's more likely. But on the smaller scale, unless you're in a savage industry or something. But I'd be less worried about that in a smaller industry. But just in general, there are just a general social media rule of thumb is they are out there. They are prevalent, and they are trying to mix the pot. They're trying to make things as chaotic as possible. That's just, there's bad actors. There always will be. But
what do you guys think is the appropriate amount of engagement or posting with the audience? So let's say, again, we mentioned Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, earlier in the show, and how his big thing has been, you should try to put out 25 plus pieces of content a day across 5 to 10, 12 platforms, and you can use a lot of them and stretch out. I've heard other people say, if you're putting out one really good piece of content a week, if it's valuable and it brings value, that's good. Where do you guys stand on that? Do you think is there such thing as too much? There's certainly such thing as not enough. I think everyone can agree on that. If no one knows you're there, then no one's going to come to your door.
Yeah.
But what about on the too much side?
So there's the aspect of keeping your business or your brand top of mind. So there's things you can do on social media and post a lot, like on stories, on Instagram stories. If you post 30 stories a day, you're going to be on that top 5 slot up on, the top of Instagram. But I think that really, you know, as far as like the frequency of posts and engagement and things, I think it's like personal brand versus like a business. So if, you know, our friend, CEO lawyer, Ali Awad, shout out to Ali Awad.
We love that guy.
Yeah, we do.
He's great.
He is all about, you know, if you notice he's the CEO lawyer. You don't really hear him pushing the name of his law firm a lot. He's the face of CEO lawyer and he's a personal injury attorney, but you know, that's his personal brand. So he posts like 50 times a day on Instagram. But so like, I would say like, I think you could bring more value, and I think your audience is more receptive, like to kind of take in your content. If you're the face, you're one person, you're putting out content, you're bringing ideas, you're entertaining, versus a business, like Instagram business page who's like just a logo. You know, maybe you want to, obviously you're going to alter your content, but you don't have to, I don't think you have to post like that, because people are on social to see their friends, you know? So if they see constantly see a logo, you know, they already see ads anyway. So I think, you know, it's versus, you know, it's personal brand versus a business as far as like post frequency.
Interesting. Yeah, that's really
That's
interesting.
what I would say.
Perspective. What do you think, Steve? Anything different from
Yeah,
that?
it's a balance, I think,
Yeah.
and definitely hit on a great point there with personal brand versus business brand. But there is a point where you can overwhelm people, I believe, and you know, I've personally unfollowed brands that post way too much because you know there's a thing called clogging up your feed, right? If constantly all you're getting is you know, you get 10 posts from this company or whatever, and you know, you might start to lose interest. It gets lackluster if you see too much of the same thing. Harping back to serotonin, right? I mean, serotonin levels will drop if you see the same thing over and over again. So definitely it's all about creating unique content that people actually want to see. It's really, really key. If you're just putting out content just to put out content, I don't think that's a good way of doing it. But if you have unique pieces that, you know, make people want to interact and people like, then yeah, put them out there. That's
Balance.
Man, I think that's great. As we kind of wind up the show, do you guys have any thoughts, tips, or tricks that you would want to give to the listener with respect to either stuff to watch out for on social media so that they don't get trapped in some negative way, either personally or their business, or something that maybe they should look at doing?
Yeah, I mean, we always end our podcast with closing thoughts, and a lot of it is tips and tricks on how you can grow your brand or personal brand. So we always say, you know, if you're hesitant to start creating content and you have a brand, or you just kind of not even a business, you know, just like a blog or whatever, but you want to put it in video format and you don't know where to start, just start. You know, you don't have to worry about it being perfect. You know, like Gary Vee always says that, you know. So, I mean, if you're trying to do anything on social media, you want to put out content, just see what works and get in the game a little bit with just anything, you know. I mean, just put it out there. So that's what I would say to anybody that's kind of wanting to get into the social media space as far as promoting their brand or whatever it is.
Nice.
Yeah, my piece of advice is get a game plan for your marketing. Figure out what is working and what is not working. That's really, really key. Put a little bit of money into SEO. Put a little bit of money into Google ads, into Facebook ads, and if you can do TV ads. And really keep great track of what your return is on all those. And then double down on the things that are working. And if it means dropping one totally, so be it. You know, if you see Google ads aren't doing it for you, if you see your SEO isn't really doing it for you, then maybe drop it and dump it into social, or dump it into TV ads, or dump it into wherever you see the most return. So dabble around, find it, hone in on it, and crush it. That's my advice.
What we're learning is when we bring on clients and they say, we need help with X, we need help with website, we need social media, we need Google. Okay, what you think you might need might not be what you need. So let us do a little audit. Let's go back. Let's look at things. Let's dive into this. And then we can kind of create a more effective plan for you, because, you know, we know you want this, but it may not work.
Right.
You know, so, you know, we try to tell the truth. We try to be genuine, you know, when we try to help out in the best way we can.
Man, that is great advice. And so while we're finishing, here's what I'd like. I'd like for people to know how they can reach you. I know that you guys do a podcast, and you know, we listen to it, and you know, I've been on your podcast, and you're obviously on our podcast, so we think the world of what you guys do. How can people reach out to ask questions, learn more, etc.?
Yeah, sure. Our podcast is called the Modern Marketing Podcast. It's available everywhere. And our website is bloommedia.us. And we're on Instagram. I think that's bloommedia.agency. And, you know, you can email us some questions at info@bloommedia.us.
Awesome. Well, you guys have been a pleasure, a wealth of knowledge. It's good hanging out with buddies, talking shop, right?
great.
I always love that. So thank you for taking the time. Continued
Absolutely.
success is all we wish for you. And
Thank you.
thanks for helping us build this brand. And let's get it done.
Let's do it, man. Thank you.
Take care.